Scientists are the upper echelon in Bleach. They are the key factors that turn the tides of war. Yuha said the world would end in 9 days, but it was by day 6, Mayuri was able to pull the Sternritter out of their hiding places, erasing their shadows. Urahara found a way to retrieve the captain's stolen Bunkai through holification. The Sternritter's attack was a surprise, but it's like Mayuri and Urahara had been prepared for the moment. However, there was a third person who was also overlooked, unaccounted for, and at the most critical hour, countered Yuha so effectively, it's like he had been prepared for the moment for years. And that was Ryukin Ishida, the last Quincy.
Ryukin.
Is that any way to address your father? You haven't changed at all, have you, son?
Ryukin, Mayuri, and Urahara were the 3 biggest critical assets that secured victory for the Coalition of Souls against the Sternritter. Their countermeasures were surgical and intentional. It's like no guesswork was needed to counter the Sternritter, just time and opportunity. And with Kubo stating that the Final Cour of Bleach will feature 7 episodes of new content, he has an opportunity to add some of Bleach's most requested lore and explain how Ryukin, Mayuri, and Urahara were so effective at countering the Sternritter's technology by canonizing Urahara's mentor, Bansui Amatsuki, from the Japanese exclusive PS2 game called Bleach Hanatareshi Yabou. Bansui is the main villain of Bleach Hanatareshi Yabou, which dropped back on February 16, 2006. Kubo worked on this game with a team of developers, adding expanded lore to the Bleach universe. The development team also built a traditional turn-based combat system and added full voice acting for the entire cast. I'm actually a little sad that we didn't get this over in the States. The game is not canon to the main series, but I do believe this alternate retelling of the Substitute Shinigami Arc provides a newer and, in my opinion, almost better introduction than the original manga. The game kicks off just like the manga, with Ichigo getting his powers from Rukia. However, the divergence happens right after the first major Hollow fight. If you remember in the canon story, Rukia is trapped in a human body. She breaks Soul Society law by giving away her powers. The game changes that by showing Rukia taking Ichigo to meet Urahara right away. Urahara hands them a specialized pill, which is medicine that lets Rukia safely absorb the spiritual pressure directly from Ichigo, giving back her Shinigami powers immediately. That one small change alters the entire timeline. The Soul Society has no reason to arrest her. They never send Byakuya or Renji to hunt Ichigo down as a criminal. The Soul Society realizes they have a world-ending crisis on their hands right away from the start. Souls are vanishing before they reach the afterlife. Someone is hijacking the Dungai Tunnel, so the Goatee 13 deploys active captains directly to Karakura Town to investigate. Ichigo gets to meet the heavy hitters of Soul Society on his own turf as an ally. He runs into Hanataro, who gets lost in the city. He bumps into Kenpachi Zaraki and eventually survives a quick street fight. The coolest moment happens when Hollows kidnap Ichigo's sisters. Byakuya and Renji are the ones who step in and save Karin and Yuzu, and this is seen through a confiscated Soul Society crystal called the Siren Dama. It's like a crystal orb that allows you to see far distances. It also allows you to track Hollows, and Ichigo saw the captains rescue his family. Ichigo is accepted as a defender of the living world. The focus shifts entirely to the real threat. We see Chad and Orihime awaken their powers early during a massive Hollow swarm. We also see the exact moment Bansui sets his master plan into motion. Ichigo and Rukia run into Uryu Ishida right after a mutated Hollow destroys the Ishida household. Similar to the anime, Ishida already knows who Ichigo and Rukia are, but this time acknowledges Chad and Orihime as having significant spiritual power as well. The relationship between Ichigo and Uryu changes dramatically because the game removes the Hollow hunting contest that defined their early rivalry in the anime. In the original anime, Uryu introduces himself by actively challenging Ichigo. He uses Hollow bait to draw hundreds of monsters into Karakura Town just to prove Quincy's are superior to Shinigami. This version of the game establishes the early foundation of Shinigami and Quincy's working together, which in my honest opinion, this version of the game lays the framework early for Shinigami's success in the Thousand Year Blood War. You see, what brings Ryukin, Mayuri, and Urahara together and their understanding of Quincy technology is that Bansui sent a mutated Hollow called Yamashita to the Ishida household to steal a Quincy book of secrets that he needed for his own plans. Bansui was a captain in the past, and he actually has some pretty good cross connections between Urahara and Aizen. You see, Bansui translates to 10,000 waters, and Amatsuki translates to heavenly moon. When you combine water and moon in Buddhist philosophy, you get Suigetsu. This concept represents illusions and objects lacking true physical substance. This fits his abilities perfectly because he manipulates reality and distorts the battlefield. This theme connects him directly to Aizen, who wields Kyoka Suigetsu. Bansui acts as a spiritual predecessor to the rogue Shinigami. He can do with his hands what Aizen needed the Hogiku for. Bansui can force holification onto a Shinigami, and creates a Rancars just by touching hollows. He accomplishes all of this without ever needing the Hogiku. His mastery comes from his early days in the Soul Society. Long before the Research and Development Institute existed, Bansui held the title of top inventor. He served as a direct mentor to Kisuke Urahara. Bansui dedicated his life to studying the boundaries between hollows and Shinigami. His early experiments formed the literal foundation for Urahara creating the Hogiku. His initial motives were noble. He wanted to stop the hollow threat permanently. He theorized a method to suppress the mutation process at the molecular level. If souls could no longer turn into hollows, the Soul Society wouldn't need a military force. He wanted to create a sterile artificial peace. Central 46 viewed this plan as a direct threat to the balance of the universe. They rejected his proposals immediately. When Bansui pushed back, they exiled him and sealed away all of his research. They locked his creations in the dark. The banishment drove him into madness. He continued his work in the shadows and twisted his goals in saving souls into a desire for absolute control. He invented a microscopic virus. This pathogen infiltrates the spiritual bodies of victims to break down their energy and rewire their nervous systems. It turns both Shinigami and Hollows into mindless slaves, loyal only to him. So Bansui deployed this contagion to build an expanding army without needing to personally brainwash every single soldier. So to support his operation and production, Bansui built a massive hidden factory deep in the underground of Hueco Mundo. The game reveals he used this facility to mass produce a banned Soul Society item that we talked about before called the Sirendama. These specialized crystals grant the user clairvoyance to observe people and events from vast distances. The Soul Society originally confiscated these devices because they possessed a severe security risk. Bansui figured out how to manufacture them perfectly. He discovered the rare gas found only in the deepest caverns of Hueco Mundo. He pumped this fuel into his assembly line to force thousands of Sirendamas. The network allowed him to spy on the Goatee 13 and coordinate his enslaved forces across multiple dimensions. He built his ultimate plan around becoming a perfect hybrid. He possessed the intellect of a Shinigami, the body of a hollow. His physical form mutated drastically during the accident. He wields a massive scythe instead of a traditional Zanpakuto now. He chose this weapon specifically to mock his former comrades. Shinigami act as gentle guides for the dead. Bansui acts as a true Grim Reaper, harvesting souls by force to build his ranks. His spiritual pressure vastly exceeds a normal captain, and he can physically sever the flowing Ryatsu of his enemies. When pushed to his absolute limit, his body loses all humanoid shape. He mutates into a gigantic dragon. In my opinion, this final state represents the failures of his original goal. He wanted to cure the universe of hollows, and he died to become the biggest hollow of them all. His raw power in this state, though, is threatening to tear Karakura Town apart. To prevent his own power from destroying him, he needed one final missing piece. He recognized the fatal flaw in his design. Shinigami rely entirely on internal energy. Hollows run on instinct and corrupted souls. Neither faction truly controls the environment around them. Quincy's, however, manipulate ambient reishi perfectly. Bansui needed this third pillar of spiritual power to stabilize his hybrid form and dominate the battlefield. He ordered Yamashita to tear the Ishida household to the ground to find the specific ancient Quincy text that would allow him to do this. The stolen book contained the mathematical formulas and ancient rituals the Quincy ancestors used to command reishi. Bansui used his knowledge to successfully fuse Shinigami, Hollow, and Quincy powers together. The writings detailed how to forge specialized catalyst stones. He used the stolen Quincy technology to form the Shianseke, the purple dark stone that acts as a spiritual black hole. It devours ambient light and completely absorbs Shinigami spiritual pressure. Bansui deployed this stone to extinguish the abilities of the Shinigami Zanpakuto. The stone absorbs Ryatsu so rapidly that captains cannot even release their weapons. The Goatee 13 was completely defenseless against this tactic. Defeating him required a rare alliance. Ichigo and Uryu had to fight side by side. They used a Maikoseke. The bright light stone radiated a massive amount of pure spiritual energy. The pure light from the Maikoseke canceled out the void of the dark stone. This overloaded the Shianseke and shattered it. The destruction of the dark stone restored the flow of spiritual pressure so the Shinigami could fight back. It seems like Kubo was playing around with ideas way back in 2006 in this exclusive Bleach game, and he's now brought these ideas to life in the Thousand Year Blood War. And the last thing he needs to bring to life is canonizing Bansui, Of course, he would have to rework a few things because he comes from an alternative universe, but Bansui provides the glue connecting Mayuri, Urahara, and Ryukin to how efficient they were at countering the Sternritter, bringing in that secret Quincy book exposing technology almost identical to what we saw used in the Thousand Year Blood War. The Bunkai suppressing medallions seem like the evolution of the Shianseki, this time giving the Quincy the ability to use the Shinigami Bunkai. And we know Quincy technology and techniques evolve, like the Quincy Lich Steel evolving into the Volstrindic, and the technology that Mayuri used to cancel out the shadows. Doesn't that sound like the Lightstone a little bit? The Maikoseke? And how do you think Ryukin found out that Steel Silver will make Yuhabaha vulnerable just for a moment? 7 new episodes of content, and just digging through some of the archives of potential, Kubo is sitting on some powerful Bleach lore. By adding Bansui, we can get Urahara's backstory and insights into Quincy technology. And yes, that does require fitting Bansui into the canon, but if this were to ever happen, I trust Kubo's pen could do it. I have more videos like this covering the in-game universe of the Japanese exclusive Bleach games. So make sure you subscribe and turn on alerts, and let me know what you're excited to see in the Final Cour of Bleach. And peace out, Zealots. It's always a pleasure.